what did we do? Like, oh my God, what is gonna happen? Man, I was pissed at that episode. I am so thrilled that I get to tell this story.
Welcome to the show.
Thrilled to be here, man. Guest number 2. I think that is rad, and I'm excited. We're gonna have a good time.
Excellent, excellent. Now, I don't feel like you need an introduction. Yeah, you're pretty popular in the D&D atmosphere.
Man, you're gonna make me blush.
But for those who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, man. My name is Max Sirak, part of Peak D&D. We're up in the mountains in Colorado, just being
Nice.
nerds in the attic and recording some TTRPG videos for the YouTubes. Man, we just like to get together with our friends and play games and have some laughs. And yeah.
Well, everybody has an origin story. I'd like to hear about yours. How did you first encounter TTRPGs, and what led to the creation of Peak D&D?
I am so thrilled that I get to tell this story
Yay.
because I actually got a text from one of my buddies
Mhm.
who said it was like the 50th anniversary of this computer camp. So when I was in middle school, I spent like one summer, I think I only went, where me and 2 friends went to this like computer camp in like Ursuline, Ohio at this college. This is back in like probably the mid 90s, early 90s. Like second edition D&D had just come out and Dark Sun had just
Mhm.
come out, which will be
Oh,
relevant here in a
nice.
second.
Okay.
And so like we were spend our days doing like, programming on Visual Basic
Oh, yeah.
and like nerding out on Basic and learning how to code. And I should
Nice.
say that is the extent of my coding. But I was rooming with 2 friends, Josh and Andy, and there's a whole bunch of like extracurricular things you could sign up for and activities like after you got up from learning computer stuff. They were actually the 2 who were like super D&D curious. Like I had never really heard about it. And so like I was the youngest of the 3. Josh was actually like a couple years older. Andy was my same grade. And there was like a group of people who were sitting downstairs in like the lobby of this college dorm, sitting around in a circle, being dorks, playing Dungeons and Dragons. And like my 2 friends were completely scared and petrified, like would not go approach these people. And so in an act of courage and making my bluff skill, I like pretty much just walk up to this group. This is like 7th grade Max, right?
Oh,
Like
wow.
not the most confident person. Like walk up this group of people and they're like, "Oh, do you know how to play?" And I'm like, "Yeah, totally." And sit down and just like get thrown into second edition D&D. And like Andy and Josh are like behind me, like paying attention, absorbing it. And I remember spending I remember far more about like them in our dorm room afterwards, like trying to figure out what was happening and how this game worked than I
Mhm.
do like any of the Visual Basic. So I like totally lied my way into my first game in Dark Sun. I was a Thrycreen cleric. There was a book of infinite spells, and Oriah and Alex, and the DM was Kyle, and that's kind of what started it. And so then we took what we learned and then like started a home group, started playing when I was in like middle school.
Nice. That's awesome. I didn't get into D&D until the late 90s,
Okay.
and 3.5 was out at that point.
Yeah.
I love 3.5. I don't know if it's nostalgia or just the customization, but oh man, did I love it.
I mean, I think there's something like I think you're always gonna love the system that you come up on.
True, true.
I will say there's a Wednesday night group that was like the primogenitor of Peak D&D that still goes on, and we're actually playing 3.5 now, which
Oh,
is
no.
a nightmare and a mess and wonderful. And like, fortunately, we have a good DM who is all for epic levels, and so we're about to hit like level 20, 21, which that game
Oh,
just gets
amazing.
messy.
Oh, yeah. I still have all my books. I have a massive series. Oh man, I think I have pretty much everything.
Oh, I'm sure, dude. It's
Oh, yeah.
so rich, and like what you said with the
Mhm.
customization,
Oh,
and oh man.
there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. I mean, the only thing that I think comes close to that level of customization, but way more simplified, and you're playing it, it's DC 20.
Yeah, I mean the seeds are there, man. Like when it comes
Mhm.
to character creation and when it comes to being able to build like whatever kooky
Exactly, the
awesome vision
multi-class.
you have in your head about what you
Yep.
want your character to be, you cannot beat DC 20 for the
Oh, yeah.
customization. If it can go on for 20 years and get like even a fraction of what 3.5 did, crazy. I'd be excited to see what that looks like.
Oh, absolutely. So how did Peak D&D start?
Oh man, so that's funny. So Ben and I have actually been collaborating creatively for a really long time. He and I have a podcast that we've been doing since 2012. Like he and I have used to working together, and it's funny because the universe sometimes is good, right? And
Yeah.
so in less than 24 hours, Ben shows me a Dungeon Dudes video and he's like, "Dude, we can do this." And and then Tony, who like he and I will play frisbee golf. And so we
Oh,
were on the
interesting.
disc golf course and Tony was, we're like it's a beautiful course, mountains, high views. And so we're like sitting there getting ready to drive, waiting for some people to play through. And he's like, "Hey man, I think we should start a Dungeons and Dragons YouTube channel." And so within, I mean, like 22 hours of each other, both Ben and Tony like say the same thing. And it was like, "Oh, okay, we should
There's
look into
something there.
this."
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, man, we were so close because this all happened and we like started to figure out like how we could film it and who was going to be involved and, went through some iterations. And we were like a month away from filming videos and launching the channel in March of 19. And like we were like 1 month too short to like get in there before pandemics and shutdowns when like lots
Uh,
of things exploded. Yeah, and so that was the origin story of Peak D&D.
nice. And since the creation of Peak D&D with longtime friends, how has creating that impacted your relationship?
Oh man, that's a great question. Well, so like I said, Ben and I have created for a long time together, and that's been nice to fall back on because he and I like we have a sense of how each other works.
Right. Makes
Uh,
sense.
Tony had been a part of our Wednesday game for, man, probably like 3 or 4 years at that point, so, like, we had a good sense of who he was around the table, and he's also a drummer, and so had been, like,
Oh,
playing in a couple bands and, like, had a good idea and also he was a basketball coach, and so, like, just the idea of, like, teamwork and working together,
yeah.
he had some pretty strong chops with.
Makes sense.
Nick, who was our first DM,
Right.
he was also part of the Wednesday group. And like that dude is, I mean, one of just the best storytellers that I have ever got a chance to play with. Like I was fortunate enough to crash one of his like home group games. And like, man, there were sessions where he brought people to tears. There were sessions where he made people so mad they were throwing dice across the table at him. And so like to be able to tug heartstrings like that,
Yeah.
that's special, man. And so it was cool to work with Nick. And then, he and the wife and kids and moved over into Washington. And so we were kind of like floundering and like, oh man, what are we gonna do? Which is awesome because Will actually became friends with all of us through the channel and through Peak D&D. His wife actually found out that we were doing the Peak D&D stuff in the studio where we were. She was touring it for a completely different reason. And so she got home and was like, "Will, you have to reach out to these guys. They're like, these are your people. They're doing your things." And
Yeah.
so he did. He got a hold of us on Discord, which is a miracle in and of itself, as you very well know. Like
Oh,
we are,
yeah.
dude. um, and
Three
I'm
months later.
let me apologize for that. Do
It's all
not
good.
Discord us, dude. We are terrible at that. So then Will, like I meet up with Will and it's a good vibe. He's an easy dude. And so then we really became friends through the channel. It started as like friends who've known each other for a while and then like we made a friend through it.
That's awesome. And with everything that's happened since then, how has like TTRPGs impacted your life and how does it help you connect with people now?
Oh man. Impacted my life in like there's a million different ways, right? Like I know for like Ben and I, when he and I are having like good friend conversations, when one of us will need like a shoulder, we'll oftentimes like pull from the game and pull metaphors. Like Ben will always call himself like his broad paladin shoulders that try to take on too much. Uh
Paladin, I get it.
yeah, and like, and so just like using it as a metaphor for what we're going through, and like we made some videos that were sort of in
Those are
in that
great. Yeah.
vein. of things, but then it's also like the random people you meet. Like I was seeing music over New Year's and like the woman who's dancing next to me and I, like we never shared a word. And then this song comes on. She turns to me 100% unbidden and she's like, "Oh, this is the name of my D&D character." It's like, "Wait, what?" And so
What?
like Rachel and I strike up this conversation at set break about like being nerds and loving Dungeons and Dragons. And it's just one of those things that I feel like if you're in a group of people, there's a good chance that either someone is curious about the game and wants to play but has never had the opportunity, or has played in the past, or like is at least, especially now with what's happened with the community and how big it's gotten, like people have a
Yes.
much more context for it. And the other nice thing is that like most people who like to play these games or are curious about them like really enjoy talking about them, the games. And so, like being at a barbecue, being in a group of people, sometimes that's uncomfortable, but if you can find
Yeah.
that like one like sliver of common ground, that can open
Mhm.
up a whole beautiful 20-minute conversation that will lead to other
Exactly.
things.
Yeah, you mentioned D&D in my presence, and I will not stop. It just goes on forever. I get
Dude,
it,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, and so, like, just being able to have that as, like, something to relate to a handful of people
Mhm.
is really nice, and then stereotypes are sometimes rooted in truth, so, like,
Yep.
we Dungeons& and Dragons players are maybe not always the most outgoing in new social situations,
Yep.
and so it is a nice thing. It's like a nice safe space, like get into relating and connecting with somebody
Yeah,
who maybe wouldn't be that comfortable otherwise.
that's true. In that video series that you mentioned, there's one in particular called D&D, A Tool to Make Sense of Life. You and Ben explain that D&D is something you genuinely use to understand your lives, framing thoughts as spells, life as an adventure, and chance as a D20. When did you first realize the game could help you make sense of experiences away from the table?
Oh, wow. When did I first think that? I mean, I can remember talking about this idea of Dungeons and Dragons and applying it to real life with friends. I was at Austin City Limits. This was probably 16 years ago, thereabouts. And I can remember just like walking around the town of Austin with some old high school friends, none of whom play, but they were just talking about like, and for whatever reason that idea was like looming very large in my head at the time. And so learned how to play in middle school, played through middle school, kind of got out of it in high school, got busy with extracurriculars and all the things, and then didn't play again until moving up to Colorado. I worked at a bookstore part time. And so, like, through there, we started
Yep.
this Wednesday group that is still going. And so, I think after 9 years of doing that, the idea of doing something creative with the game was there for a long time. Like, I can remember sitting around the table and like looking around at everyone and just being like, man, everyone around this table is so creative and so like good at like have so many skills and talents, but we're all underemployed. We're all like
Yeah,
working at restaurants and bartending and working at movie theaters. And so I think that always kind of got the wheels spinning as far as like, oh, what could we do with this? Like sometime around my 30s, I started thinking about that. And I think as I started wanting to add a little bit more magic to the world, right? Like we live in this technological world and like so much of the metaphors and so everything is like computers and technology and they're great, like that's how we're doing this, but I
yeah,
think to be able to enchant people with life again in a way,
yeah,
like to me this is like a playground, this is a gift, the fact that we get to be here, like let's make the most of it. And I think Dungeons and Dragons, with its like easy access to magic, you're casting spells, you're fighting dragons, you're being a hero, like I just think that world lends itself to that.
absolutely. In your opinion, what makes TTRPG language particularly effective for exploring experiences that might otherwise be difficult to understand or to even talk about?
I mean, I think the distance of fantasy and fiction helps, right? Like just being able to put that intellectual space in
Yeah,
there, I think can free people up to be a little bit more limber with how they approach things. I've heard psychologists and folks talk about how
Yeah.
if you can, like, getting into self-talk and just,
Mhm.
like, being able to put it in the third person, a lot of our self-talk, at least I'll speak for myself, a lot of my self-talk can be, yeah, I would never say half the things that I say to myself to anybody else in this world, right?
Right.
Instead of being like, "Oh, I screwed this up today," be like, "Well, Max, you did a number on that one." And so I think just that little psychological distance can help. And then I think too, by couching stuff in the idea of beholders and wizards and dragons and these like mystical creatures, it adds an otherworldliness that
Mhm.
I think can loosen things up and just add a little bit more flexibility and make things seem less serious and more playful, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great tool for that. That's why I love creating storylines specifically for, helping people with their mental health. If you're dealing with like bullying, for example, I'll create a storyline based on bullying and you can practice, as much as you need to in a fake environment, having fun with people. And it gives you the opportunity to kind of see how other people would deal with it. Kind of like, oh, that's what they would do. That's what they would say. Interesting. So I find it's a great tool for that.
Oh, it's incredible. And like I've been thinking recently about the capacity to create like your idealized self, right? Like you
Hmm.
have this
Yes.
container where you can create whatever like hero vision you have for yourself, like whatever peak max is, or like
Mhm.
maybe that would be super ego. I don't know. I'm not. And just be able to give yourself this template, like I mean, I know when like do you remember the WWJD bracelets, right? Like what would
Yes.
Jesus do? I have found myself thinking about one of my favorite characters and like asking myself like, "Oh man, what would Val do in this situation?"
Yeah.
And like if you take this character from like, fledgling can be killed by two rats, right? To like saving the world and facing down gods or whatever the storyline happens to be. I think that you can like think about those things. And it's like, oh, this is my most like badass self. And just like, oh, what would this like fully realized, idealized like hero Max, like how would that person respond in this situation?
Mhm.
I think that's valuable too.
Yeah. Is it just me, or does it seem like it's easier to play these characters, these heroes, than it is to play ourselves sometimes?
Yeah, 1,000 times, right? Because like
Yeah.
these
Why is
heroes,
that?
well, oh man, well, because I think like we know what we want these heroes to be, and like they are an aspect of ourselves or like a part of ourselves, but inside, man, it's hard. Like all those competing
Yeah.
voices and like goals in the real world are very murky. And like, what kind of life do I want to lead? Then you're like, oh, the house is on fire. Like, I need to save the people in it. And so there's almost like a simplicity, I think, about with like your character, because you're like, oh no, this is the monster. I'm gonna fight the monster. And so there's like an ease there, I think. I think the beauty of the D20, right? Like also like my character probably has a much better chance of getting in there and helping that fire situation
Mhm.
because, I'm going to pitch whoever's DMing an idea and chances are they'll be like, cool, roll the dice and add the bonuses. Whereas like real life Max, like there's no D20s to roll.
Exactly.
It's like avoid the timber and try not to breathe in too much. But like
Yeah.
there's no 20-sided dice that's going to help me do that.
That's true. In the video you created called In Triggers, Trauma, and Cure Wounds, you describe being triggered as entering combat and falling back on survival strategies learned at earlier levels. Is that a metaphor rooted in experiences or that you've recognized in yourself? And what helps you notice that shift before autopilot takes over?
Dude, I was thinking about this today. I was writing about this
Oh, wow.
today. Regardless whether we're talking about capital T or lower T traumas, right? Like
Hmm.
everybody's been through something.
Yes.
And I think when it really comes to healing, right? Like if you want to zoom all the way out and you want to talk about real life, like what does healing look like? And to me, where I've landed at the moment, it's doing new things in old places, right?
Mm.
Like, because ultimately it's doing new things in old places. And the thing that keeps us from being able to do that are like all of our old patterns for the most part. I get into an experience that reminds me of an experience of my past, right? So, try to think of like what was the good example that I was writing about tonight. I have really, admittedly, strange amount of weight that I will put on communication in like intimate relationships that is like far more than where I put it in other relationships, for instance. And so back in the day, I had this experience where I was dating a girl for a long time and like she was off traveling and I was going to go meet her across, away. She was in Nepal and went to go meet her. But like communication totally broke down. Things all fell apart in Nepal. Awful, awful experience. But because of that, now with any person I'm dating, as soon as there's like the slightest change in communication, like I am instantly hyper vigilant and like completely on guard.
Right, right.
And so I remind myself that, okay, to me, like being on guard, that's when I am triggered. Like that's when I've entered combat. Like that is the only time where I can actually make a new decision that seems to matter. Because if I just let autopilot go, like I'm never going to get better. I'm never going to
Right,
heal. Like I'm just going to keep repeating these patterns. But if I
right.
can recognize what's happening and just try to like shift things into a somewhat healthier space, then to me, that is a step towards healing.
Right. Okay. You say that you're your party's cleric. Speaking of healing, how do you balance taking responsibility for your own healing with accepting the help action from others?
Whew. I think we all have our own like I might be our party's cleric, but I have other clerics in my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think it's a matter of being able to like fill your cup.
That's so important. Yes.
A good conversation with an old friend, nature. I spend a lot of time outside and that'll fill me up too, man. Like, I think I get a lot of like my oxytocin. I think a lot of that comes from outside for me. Let's see, music. I like to go see live music, also something that'll like charge me up. It's one thing in D&D and a lot of these games we love, right? Like you get a long rest and you get your spell slots back. I think it's a little bit more complicated in real life, but I think you gotta make sure whatever it is for you, like you gotta find those ways to get your spell slots back or else you're gonna be tapped out, man. Not be able to
Yeah,
help
absolutely.
anybody.
That's so fair. In Exhaustion Part 2, burnout and overwhelm are presented as stacking levels, with overwhelm creating paralysis when you no longer know where to begin. How do you recognize that progression in yourself and what helps you regain enough agency to take the first action?
Oh man, I love the fact that you are asking me all these questions. Like Ben is
Excellent.
gonna freak out when he hears about this. Like I just please no. I cannot wait to tell him. So I will say this is one place where I think it helps to be part of a party because I think that sometimes it's a lot easier for someone who knows you well to see those things first. I think that as we get into those stacking levels of exhaustion, like that tunnel vision creeps
Mm,
in. And I think that sometimes it's nice to be able to have someone who can tap you on the shoulder and be like, hey,
mm,
man. I think for me personally, there are like emotional and intellectual cues. Like the more scarcity driven my thoughts are, and the more that I feel like something has to be done, like the more I am in black and white thinking, the more urgent I am feeling emotionally. I think those are two good indications that, like, oh no, actually, what I really need to do is like press pause and slow down. So that's kind of like one of those places with the cure wounds where it's like, okay, no, I know like my mind is telling me like I've got to push ahead, like go harder, go
yeah,
faster, grind, grind, grind. And I've come to recognize that as a signal to be like, no, actually, what I really need to do is the opposite. But of course, it's like so hard in the modern world and with like
so,
obligations and
yeah,
other people in your life.
exactly.
And then, yeah, just stopping. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be for long, man. It can be just like slow down, go take a walk, like take a
Yeah,
shower, just do something to like unload a little bit of that allostatic load on the body and kind of like see what the next best step is for where you need to get to.
makes sense. You talked about the chaos of everyday life, how the world is today. In that video, you and Ben called yourself people pleasers who struggle with power word no. Then in part 3, that turns that pattern into an oath of the martyr, built around self-sacrifice, refusing to help, and choosing death over disappointment. How much of yourself do you recognize in that subclass? What has learning to say no or ask for help required from you?
So that subclass, we definitely that is Ben through and through, man. And so like that subclass, like that's sort of where we came up with the idea. We worked with our buddy Ed, who used to help out Luke Hart and DM Layer and good friend of the channel. And so we worked with him to just like create this, self-sacrificing paladin. I like to say that I am a people pleaser in recovery. Ben, I think, struggles with it and always probably has a bit more than me. I think that this whole last month, I've actually been chewing on the idea of the ways that we abandon ourselves
Mm,
in like the subtle and the not so subtle ways. I think that a lot of us can learn from an early age this adaptation of like, oh no, if I can keep these people happy, then I will feel like everything is okay, to like stave off uncertainty. And I think that's a very subtle start to the ways that we abandon ourselves. Even just putting a black cloud in your own thoughts and visions, right? And like we don't have 100% control of our minds. Like we all sorts of weird things pop up all the time, right?
yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
and so, but like those ideas of like, oh man, how am I sabotaging myself with my thoughts? And even that is a little bit of people pleasing and abandoning yourself. And I think that's the core of it, is that when we prioritize other people over our own needs. And it goes back to your question about being a cleric. And like sometimes you have to recognize when like, no, I need to fill, like I need my spell slots
Yeah.
and I need 10 minutes or a nap or a day off or whatever it is to get them back.
Yes.
But it's hard, man, because those pressures from the outside will never stop.
Oh, definitely not. And if you don't have those moments to just pause, it can lead to some really dark places for sure. In a March 2024 interview with RPG Counterpoint, while discussing the future of Peak D&D, you said there was a year when you cleared your other creative commitments and make Peak D&D the focus of your creative energy and became way burnt out. Now, as somebody who's diagnosed with burnout myself, I totally understand that. How was chasing results affecting your mental health and your relationship with the project?
I can't even believe you read that Counterpart article. That is awesome. I am astounded. Wait till I tell Dave. He'll be thrilled. um, oh man. Okay. So I struggle keeping score, period. And it's like something I have learned about. Like one of the best places for me to see it is on the disc golf course. And like, so I stopped keeping score in that game 10 years ago, probably, because I realized that I'd be out there with my friends, be a beautiful day, and we're just trying to have fun, man. Like it's not a tournament, it's not a contest. But the more I kept score, the more I cared about my shots, like the worse that I played. Something I think about a lot is that, like, man, the less attention I can pay to results, the better I end up doing. But with trying to grow the channel and like really caring about engagement and subscribers, and watching those numbers fluctuate or not grow as much as I hoped they would just became super demoralizing. And I think like with burnout specifically, something I like to think about is I took an online class a while ago, and there was a section on burnout, and they were talking about the 6 burnout triggers. And the one that really stuck me was like the inverse proportion of effort and reward. And so I think that one of the most dangerous places for me in burnout are those areas where I feel like I put in so much and get so little back. That's the one that gets me probably the
Yeah,
most.
I get that.
When we were writing the scripts for the D&D ideas, and like we started with, man, I mean, I think we were trying to put out 2 videos a week when we first started. And so then just the grind of so putting together a script every week, like putting together gameplay every week, writing those descriptions every week, and just like that constant churn. And then
It's a lot. Yeah.
yeah, and like we haven't I mean we the algorithm hasn't necessarily been the best to us, but we haven't been the best to it either. Like we made a conscious decision early on where we were like, man, we really don't want to play that game.
Right.
And so like our growth is very, very like comes in plateaus. Like we'll collaborate with somebody and get exposed to new people, and then we'll get like a bump. But there's not like a linear, like it hasn't been very linear. And
Right.
so, there's been months where it's just like, oh my God. The nice thing about doing this with a team is that it is very
What's
rare.
that like?
Well, it's because like we are there to pick each other up. And so
Right.
it's not uncommon that one of us is like, oh man.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But it's very uncommon that all 4 of us are at the same time. And
Hmm.
so having like 3 other people that really aren't feeling that way, like, it's an easy way to remember the joy and, like, you can crack jokes and get that person laughing again and pick them up.
I feel like Will is often that ray of sunshine. I don't know why I get that vibe, but I feel like
That's awesome. Um, I he certainly can be. Will is hilarious, man. Like that dude, I love that guy so much. Like his neurotic self-doubt is so endearing to me, but like his enthusiasm is so
Mhm.
great. Like he sent me a sample, like he and his wife recorded a podcast together, which was awesome. And he's like, "Hey man, I just want you to listen to it and like give me some feedback." One of the notes I wrote was like, "Oh man, like the real you doesn't like show through until like halfway through the episode." Man, he gets like so excited and so tangential. If I was like writing him in a script, like he would finish a line and then there'd be like a comma and some little dig at himself. I love it, man. It's endearing. His intros on the gameplay are my
Oh,
absolute
they're
favorite,
awesome.
man. Dude, he hates them. Obviously, he hates them.
Really?
Oh, yeah, but they're the best. I love his improv sensibilities when it comes to yes and. There's like almost nothing you can say that he won't be able to tag a line onto to keep
Yeah,
it going. It could be like some gallows humor, it could get a little dark, but like
yeah.
there's always some laughter at the end.
Playing games with the 3 of them, you're currently running Return to Argilia as your 3rd campaign. For someone discovering it through this conversation, what is the adventure about, and what have your previous actual play campaigns taught you that shaped this one?
Oh man, Return to Argilia is an awesome story. It is Ben's baby. It actually came from he DM'd for our Wednesday group way back in the day, second edition. You'll hear it come up in the campaign that we are the Vortorum, are sort of like the
Yep.
heroes of the age. He ran the second edition campaign was about like the second Vortorum. And the one we're doing now, we are the third Vortorum. And so, like, there are all sorts of Easter eggs that come up in this campaign that are a callback to that original one.
Nice.
And so Ben is a big Warhammer fan and really
Oh.
loved the Horus heresy. And so I think the idea of like all of those deities and gods sort of served as like a bit of his inspiration for
Mhm.
the world of Argilia. It is a cool story about people who had no idea how powerful they were. And there's this theocracy that is coming up and becomes pretty imperialistic.
Mhm.
And magic was kind of like suppressed on the main continent. Things happen and the world goes a bit crazy. And then it gets into like the forces of light and darkness coming to a head. There's this new god was supposed to be born, but wasn't. Someone or something kind of took its place and established this empire around it and kind of untangling all of that. I will say, so as far as how these campaigns will run into each other, we played 2 5th edition campaigns. Nick was the DM, Into the Feywild and Into the Fey, which was like Luke Hart's DM layer. He let us do that, which was great. And then we did a second campaign with Nick that we didn't get a chance to finish because he moved away. That one actually gets kind of dark. Nick was in a place. In his words, he was like, I was reading a lot of Russian fiction at that point. And
Oh.
so I think like the biggest through line is Nick was really good about ending on cliffhangers or episodes and
Mhm.
also emotional gut punches. And I think Ben took those 2 things and used his theater chops and just ran because there are so many episodes where like the rug just will get pulled out from under us. And you can see it in my face, man. Like I don't get very loud, but like if I'm real quiet around the table, that's how you know I'm pissed. There will be episodes where if you pay attention, like just the disappointed dad head shake or the just like, oh my God, are you kidding? One thing that Nick was always fond of saying is that the dice tell the best stories.
Yes, they do.
And I think that also means that you should leave a little space into the stories because things will come out in the wash that you would have never imagined, like based on like, oh, this person made this choice. And like, I didn't really have an idea for what that was going to be, but now I'm going to take this and play with that. And so you can make this beautiful tapestry living world that encompasses everyone's ideas that just it's satisfying for everybody for like DMs and GMs, like y'all don't always get as much curiosity as players,
Mhm.
right? Like we get the novelty and the curiosity because we don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And so I think when you leave space, like you were talking about, then there gets to be like some awe and mystery and surprise for you along the way. And
Oh,
you're
yeah,
like,
I've been surprised.
yes.
Speaking of choices, though, what are the chances you guys break the timeline again?
Oh God. I mean, just ask Will. He'll try to whenever. So you want to man, that was I was pissed at that episode. I was so mad. But I can remember I was like in the shower. Like I remember when the idea for Dark Timeline Julius hit me. Cause like I was thinking about instead of being pissed, instead of being angry, like how can I work with this? Like how
Yeah.
could I yes and this? And I think I
Mhm.
had just watched the Darkest Timeline episode of Community, maybe like in the
Yes.
last like what the last month or so. And so, dude, like
Perfect.
I was like in the shower and I was like, oh, what if I did like evil Dark Timeline Julius? And as soon as that idea came to me, I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, this is going to be so much fun.
That's
And it
great.
was great too, because that happened. And then I think we had like 2 weeks off because schedules didn't work. I remember leaving the studio that day and we were all just like, what? Like, what did we do? Like, oh my God, what is going to happen? um and as Will, like, it's talking to him about that, he's like, dude, it was above table, like I was just cracking a joke. And so like now if you're careful and you listen, like you'll hear one of us be like, no, above table, like no no no
Yeah.
no,
Learned your
um,
lesson.
oh man. But I think Ben did a good job with that. And then we've also just been like, he's completely made us scared that it'll happen again. And so there's like on eggshells of like, oh, I don't know, like, oh God, not again.
Having had a chance to play all these different systems, which one's your favorite, and why did Peak D&D decide to go with DC-20 for this campaign?
Man, the first one's always going to be a special place. And so, like, second
Yes.
edition player's option, you can really see the roots of third edition and what they did in there because they made a
Yeah, I've never
bunch of,
played that one.
they did some really, those player option books in second edition are rad. That said, I've been able to, like, there's things I appreciate about all editions. DC-20 stuff was just super serendipitous and lucky. So, Luke Hart, DM Layer, through LayerCon twice. One of them was down in Texas, the first one, and we were down there and, like, all drove down as a group. And Alan, coach, shows up and he and I are sitting at a table and we play this like PvP one shot together. And
Yeah.
like the dice willed us to be friends. Like they're like I don't even remember exactly what, but it was like one of those things where like we had like a contested check where we both rolled like the same thing, the same thing, the same thing. And then on the fourth one,
Wow.
he rolls a 20, I roll a one. So it's like, okay, I guess I know what, like, I'm gonna play it like this. And so like he and I had a really good time and just became like friends there. And so like we were getting done with the second campaign and Nick was leaving and it was right when like DC-20 stuff was starting out. And
Mhm.
so it was like, dude, like let us play this system, man. We'll redline it until the
Yeah.
wheels fall off. Like, let's do this. And so it just kind of came up timing wise is how we got onto DC-20. And I mean, Alan's a good dude, man.
Oh,
And
yeah. Oh,
so
yeah.
it was super fun to be able to get to do that. And the fact that he let us also very, very cool. And so that's how the DC-20 stuff came along. We're actually talking right now, and there's probably only 10 more episodes or less
That's
that are
it?
going to be left in campaign three.
No.
Oh, you're sweet. But I think what we're gonna do is more short form stuff.
Okay.
I think like Tony has a system that he found that he wants to try out. And I don't know if he's gonna DM or if Ben will, but we've talked about doing 10 session arcs in different game systems.
Nice.
One thing we've found, and we've tried a couple different things, is that when it comes to like growing an audience, like, hey, no, come check us out. Like, here is 340 hours of video to get caught up to where we are,
Yeah.
and then you'll be great. And so, like, that's just a big ask, man. And so,
That's fair.
like,
That's fair.
in trying to be like, oh, what would be like more approachable for other people? I'm like, oh, let's try something shorter, smaller.
What are the chances some of the characters could show up on different systems?
Well, this is what I've pitched everybody on is like Argilia and keeping things in Argilia, whether it is like much
Nice.
like you were saying, Nexus, is that your
Nexia.
world? Nexia. I think we're gonna do some like pirate stuff
Nice.
next. And so, like, well, yeah, I mean, there's room for that. Like, we can go, it could happen in Jastian, right? Like, and so
Yeah.
just keeping everything in Argilia for what you just said. So, like, players can come back or, prequels of people or get alluded to just like create that. I don't know, like something that's like very succinct and like well fleshed out and like everything is interconnected and intertwined.
That's awesome because you're not only speaking to new viewers based on the fact that you're having these more short form storylines, but you're also speaking to the long term viewers that have been around for a long time and know all the storyline from way back when. So I think that's great.
Thanks, man. Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
I know we're excited to just do something a little different. You know, I mean, it's been a long campaign, man. It's like, well, we're on episode. I was just writing the description for 106. We haven't put an episode out every week, but most weeks. And then there was like an arc, a mini arc in there with the Wandering Tavern.
Yeah, that was great too.
You know, it's going on like 2.5 years. So,
I love
uh,
long-term stories, so I won't complain personally, but I understand it's a big commitment for a lot of people. But I'll definitely be sad because I'm still trying to get caught up since our little girl was born. I've been falling way
dude,
behind, so I'm
first
trying.
First off, congratulations.
Thank
Second
you,
off, that
thank
is a
you.
fantastic reason to fall so far behind. And thirdly, like I am flattered and thrilled that you even want to finish, to be perfectly honest with you. I am curious, where are you at now?
I think it's during the Wandering Tavern
Okay,
or
sure.
just after, one or the other.
So then if and when you do get to these like last couple episodes, like Ben does a very good job of to your point about like tying things in from the Wandering Tavern.
Nice.
And there's some good things that seeds get planted there that bear a little fruit toward the end, which is cool. He did a really good job with that for sure.
I do hope to see some of these characters in future stories because who doesn't want Bear Max to show up again one day? You know, like that's awesome.
Hey, thanks, man. Yeah, no, I was super thrilled that I rolled that. That has been a fantastic perk at the
Mhm.
beginning, certainly.
So, how long until you guys rebrand to Peak TTRPG at this point? Because does D&D even fit anymore?
Man, so it's funny. I this might be so we're actually gonna rebrand. Yeah,
Oh,
so that's been a
for
talk.
real? Okay.
Yeah. No, believe me, it has been an internal discussion. We might actually, this could be, yeah, I don't even know if I'm necessarily supposed to say this, but we're talking about changing the name to Nerds in the Attic. Um,
Oh, I like that. That's cool.
Thanks. That yeah, and
Yeah,
like so Will is the graphic designer and like he loves the branding with that and has a bunch of ideas. And that'll also let us like expand the scope of what we want to do as just being a bit more umbrella. But no, believe me, after like 2 years of not playing Dungeons and Dragons on a channel that's called Dungeons and Dragons, we're like,
yeah.
okay, man, we gotta do something. So I think the plan is like we're gonna finish campaign 3 because we actually have been pretty good about like filming and we have like some in the bank, and so we're going to finish filming before it gets all released. And so then I think the next big thing is like, okay, how is this rebranding going to go and what are we going to launch Nerds in the Attic with?
Nice. That is a pretty big undertaking. It's like hard to find something that's very suitable, but also hasn't been taken. Like, how did you guys come up with the name? And have you looked into whether, there's anything similar out there?
So like to your point, the thing that makes me the most mental about rebranding is like there's going to be a part of me that wants to go through all of our 400 and whatever video descriptions and change stuff, and it's like that
No,
like
no.
yes, exactly.
It's too
Like
much.
it's funny because like they're all like, dude, you don't have to do that. Like Ben's
No,
like, man, you don't have to. I'm just like, no, but I
no.
have to. So originally, so we live up in ski country. And
Mhm.
so we laughed because like peak everything is just like it's like the most generic name up here because we live in the mountains. And so like peak appliance repair, peak one shuttles, peak plumbing, peak this. And so like we had a couple of ideas and like, whatever, man, we'll just be peak D&D. And so that's how
Makes
that
sense,
came
yeah.
up. But then so we are very, very fortunate with where we get to film and how that all shook out. And so we have basically an attic space in this building.
Very on
Ben
the nose. I like
yeah,
it.
no, so Ben has taken to so when he's talking to like the people that run it, or he's like giving an orientation for the wood shop, he's like, oh, I'm Ben, I'm like one of the nerds in the attic, because it's like pottery studio, wood shop, like 3D print, everything, all this is downstairs. And then every once in a while, like 4 dudes will walk upstairs and like shut this door and shoot nerd videos. And so like in their meetings and when we're like talking about leases and stuff, there's like, yeah, no, we're from the nerds in the attic. And so both Will and Tony, they were the two that have been hammering that drum the loudest. I'm just like, dude, I really like this. And Will just loves graphic design and logos. And so like
Nice.
he showed up with 10 different prototype logos. He's like, oh, we could do this and we could do that. And so
That's awesome. It seems very fitting. It seems natural. Like, just the way you described it, like, it just seems like it suits you guys.
no, I thank you. I will take that to them certainly. And I would also maybe there's like a seed or a nugget in there for you too, as you think about like what direction you end up taking it with yours. Like, I don't know. One thing I love about conversations is that oftentimes there'll be like some sort of weird moment of clarity where I will say something that I didn't really know that I thought or believed and so maybe you'll be having a conversation with someone and
Yeah.
some phrase will just pop out. You'll be like, "Oh, that's it."
Yeah, you never know. How about you tell the viewers where they can find you?
Oh yeah, no, go to Peak D&D. Well, depending when no, or Nerds in the Attic. You should search. No, uh,
Trick
you can.
question.
Yeah, no, for sure. What I will tell you is don't come to our Discord. We would love to have you, but there is nothing happening because we are so bad at checking it. So please know that. But no, we have all of our stuff is on YouTube. Peak D&D. Yeah, there's a bunch of videos, a lot of gameplay. Like we've started just basically doing a bunch of gameplay because that's what we have the most fun with. Although, like we started this conversation off, Ben and I have some great talking heads videos in there, kind of talking about the power of these games to like help us in our real lives. And so, if you feel like nerding out about that stuff, there's a
Oh,
playlist
yeah.
for that. There's some sketches on there. My mom is always on me when I talk to her. She's like, "I
Oh,
miss
nice.
those sketches. You guys were so good." Thanks, mom. Couple live streams there too, but we're pretty good about putting things up once a week. I don't know. We like to have fun. It's basically just like four dudes sitting around a table, cracking jokes and playing games. So
That's
come
awesome.
check it out.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining today. I'm so happy to have you on the show. It's great having this conversation, and I look forward to having many more in the future.
Dude, can't wait. This was a blast. Thank you so much. I'm going to tell Ben and I'm going to tell Dave, and they're going to lose their minds.
That's awesome.